Now, I mentioned before about lethality. You notice that we don't have any HUD throughout the entire game. Jason, there's no health bar for Jason. There's no health bar for the enemies. And part of that's because anytime you go through and you hit an enemy, their actual health state is going to be represented on their person. Either you're going to see a texture state that's going to change, or they're actually going to go through and be limping around the battlefield. They might drop their shield and ultimately become more vulnerable. Because that's what you see in a movie. You know, that's the way, the visual language that we've all learned by watching film is when this guy's crippled and staggering around, he's more vulnerable. I get it. It makes sense. On Jason's part, you'll actually see the textures on his body change. He'll become more cut up and wounded. He'll leave bloody footprints. And then as he actually gets really low on health, you'll see a haze that'll come over the edge of the screen. And if Jason can avoid getting hit for a few seconds, he'll naturally regenerate. So you don't need to rely on potions or cure light wound spells or whatever it may be. It's all just going to be keeping the player immersed within the experience, which is really the core. It's the reason why we've discarded a lot of this UI, so we don't have to worry about it. Now, one of the other really cool things that we have is shield collision. You notice that if you hit anybody's body, they're going to go through and take damage. Shields are the exception to that. We actually detect collision differently on the shields. So if an enemy goes through and strikes Jason's shield, it's going to deflect off that shield. And so you'll notice that Jason's moving his arm independently in order to go through and intercept each of these attacks. He's not just holding a block pose and having attacks deflect off an invisible force field that's around him. Again, it's the laws of it's the things you would expect. If you had a friend who'd never played video games before, this is the sort of behavior they would expect to see. You know, no clipping, all these instances where these weapons actually go through and impact the things they're supposed to impact. And that shield is live at all times. So even if you're standing in an idle animation and that, you know, attack hits the shield, it's going to deflect off. You can be in the middle of a combo, an attack comes in to interrupt you, that shield is going to deflect the attack away. Now, you notice Jason's a weapon master. He's got the sword, the mace, and the spear, and each one sort of has their own language of death. But the other thing that you can do, you just saw right there, is Jason, in the middle of a spear combo, swapped out his sword. You know, you don't have a UI screen. It's not just popping into his hand. He puts the sword away, or puts the spear away, draws the sword, and cuts the guy in half. It's a big, potent moment. So, guy we're about to see right now is a Minotaur, and we'll also go through and we'll show you one of these god powers that we have throughout the game. We're going to bring up some debug UI real quick. This is going to be in the final game. Now, we mentioned as you gain favor with the gods, they're going to go through and give you gifts. We're going to show you one of Hermes' abilities, which is called Gates of Tartarus. It's a high-level ability. We're showing it a little bit earlier on. But what's really cool about it is basically it opens this portal that will allow you to go through and suck guys in as we're going through. And the key with all of our god powers is we want to make sure that there is a tactic. You know, it's not just you're going to fire off a god power, a bunch of lightning bolts are going to hit people, and they're all going to have 50% health. There's no tactic involved in that. We want to make sure that whatever abilities we end up firing off are significant. So, this is Gates of Tartarus. Now, if Jason can use his mace or his shield in order to go through and actually push people around, you'll see that if he hits them, they'll get knocked basically into that gate, which will ultimately end up killing them once and for all. So, gives you a little bit of a taste of some of the things. There's a whole host of different god powers that we have throughout the game that Jason will be able to use at his disposal. Each god has their own array of abilities that each reinforce different tactics. So,